again, not many people talk about this part, and like not many people like they're open about it, you know, like many people are saying like, oh, I'm fearless or whatever, you know, like go fuck yourself, you know.
Yeah.
You know, it's bullshit. Everybody has fear, you know. So I'm very open about it, and I like to like talk about it because I feel like people like it when you show that you're like a human being. Yeah. How I got into Muay Thai was through my dad, basically, because my dad was a kickboxer back in his young days as well, and he always, like, even when he stopped fighting and you know, started working and doing business, he was always training and stuff, you know. And especially like in summertime, we would always come to Thailand on like holidays. Since I was like, the first time I came to Thailand, I was like 1.5 years old, I think.
Wow.
So we used to come like almost every year. And as soon as I was like 7 or 8 years old, I started like going to the gym with my dad. Like he used to come and train on afternoons, you know, after going to the beach, you know, he used to come and train. And I used to watch him at first because he wasn't interested in it. But then I started seeing like kids, you know, there's a lot of little Thai kids like training in Thai gyms, you know, like training, you know, they're playing more like the jumping off the ropes of the ring, you know, and they're hitting the bag, you know. So I was like, I want to try that. It looks fun, you know, like they were basically playing with gloves and stuff. So I started playing with the kids, and then it all started from there, you know, like step by step, I started to actually train a little bit. And yeah, that's how it started.
Okay, so how old were you then when you really started training?
I think when I was around 8 or 9 years old is when I was actually doing training sessions, you know, like I was doing pads and bag work. Like obviously, like, you know, I was a little kid, so I wasn't training like hard or anything, but I was actually going there for the training and not just to watch my dad or like to, you know, mess around with the kids, you know. I think about 8 or 9 years old. Yeah.
Okay, and then when you went back to Italy, did you continue training then?
Yeah, we used to come on summertime. So when I come back to Italy in winter, sometime I used to go to the like to some gyms that maybe my dad's old friend from when he was in these fighting days, you know, I was going to train with them because they had gyms and they had like classes and stuff. But it wasn't very consistent at first because we used to live like very far from the city, so it was like a long drive and everything. But when I really started to train in Italy as well was after I had my first fight in Thailand, which I was at 12 years old. So after my first fight in Thailand, then I started like going back in the winters and like actually training on a daily basis as well in Italy. But I can say that I did most of my training like here in Thailand. Like in Italy, I have trained, but not that much. Yeah.
Okay, so how long were you spending in Thailand when you were going on holiday?
Uh, I think I think 1 to 3 months, depending on the years. Yeah, because we had 3 months off school, so maybe not 3 months was too much. I think at least 1 month, maybe it could have been 2 months. Sometimes I have to ask my parents. I can't remember.
Okay, okay, so how did the first fight come about?
Um, I was training like kind of on a daily basis, and then you know my dad was always like putting the input, you know, like, you know, you should try and have a fight, you know, see how you like it, you know. He's always like wanted me to fight since I was you know, since I started training Muay Thai because he was a fighter, obviously. So he wanted me to have the experience at least, you know, like not necessarily like making my profession, but he just wanted me to have that experience, that life experience, you know. And he said, as a little kid, you normally won't get hurt if you as much as if you would have started your first fight at like 18 years old. You know, it's much different. You know, when you're a little kid, you don't hit hard. You know, like it's a fight, but the chances of getting hurt when you're small is like when you're like 30 kilos is, you know, it's much lower. You know, much lower. You know. And just was training every day. And then my dad was like, yeah, if you want to fight, just tell the promoter, tell the owner of the gym, which was also a promoter. And I was like, you tell him. And I was like, no, he's like, no, you have to be the one telling him, you know, because you're going to be the one stepping on the ring. So if you really want to do it, you have to be the one telling him. So yeah, one day I just walked up to him after the training. And I was like, with my very shit English, I was like, look, I want to try and fight. Like, I want to fight. And the guy was like, yeah, no problem, no problem. I'll find you a fight like, right away. And I think 3 or 4 weeks later, I was already fighting. And yeah, they found me another Thai kid like that never fought before as well. So yeah, it was good because we had the same experience, which was zero. And yeah, it was good. We had the same age, I think. I think we were both 12 years old, same weight, same height. So yeah, it was good.
Yeah. So how were you feeling when the promoter said that you'd been matched?
Honestly, I can't remember very well. Like it's so long ago. Like what I remember was I was very like nervous when I had to go and tell him that I wanted to fight. Because one, I've always been a very shy person. So just like approaching someone that was so much older and so much more, I don't know how to say, like high up, like the owner of the gym, you know, it's like, God, I'm going to go to the owner of the gym and speak. It was like something already, like something to be nervous for me already. And then when I got matched, I really can't remember. Like, I don't remember if he came to me and said, look, we find you under kid or whatever. I just remember the day of the fight. Obviously, I was like nervous, but in a way, not that much because I didn't really know what I was getting into. You know, I was like, you know, I don't know. There was nothing like for me to relate on, you know? So I was like, yeah, I'm going to go and fight, but I don't know how it's going to be. I only remember that before my fight, I saw one guy coming out the ring on a stretcher and he had like cuts on his face and stuff, and they were stitching him up in the fucking locker room near me. And I was gonna have my first fight, and I was like, and my dad's like, "Are you okay? Like, don't look at that guy." And I'm like, "Oh, it's fine, it's okay." You know, like I was really like didn't really know what I was getting into, you know. So I was nervous to a point, but not that nervous, you know, as I was maybe in my second, third, fourth fight, you know.
Okay. Yeah. So how about the fight itself?
The fight itself, again, it's so long ago, so it's hard to like recall. Like I just have like flashbacks mostly, you know, because now it's been like, gosh, like so long. Now I'm like 29, so it's like 17 years, so long.
Yeah.
I was like, from what I watched in the video, I still have the video nowadays. I think I was mostly like waiting to get hit, and once I get hit, I would like go and hit him as much as I could. And after the fight, what I remember is that I couldn't walk. My shins were hurting so much. My dad had to carry me home like you know, like princess style, you know. And yeah, that's all I remember. After the fight, I was like, God, it hurts so much, you know, like kicking the other guy's shin, him kicking my legs, like yeah. But it was fun. Like it was honestly, it was a great experience, like for a 12-year-old kid to do, you know, to go through something like that. But yeah, I think it was. I would, you know, if I would have gone back, I would have done it again, like 100%.
Yeah, yeah, because I mean, it's interesting that your dad said, you know, if you have a fight as a kid, you're not going to get hurt as much
Yeah,
as when you're 18. And you said as well, you know, you didn't really know what was going on. You'd never had a fight before.
yeah,
But I've spoken to people. I've spoken to people who didn't start until a little bit later, and because they
yeah,
are an adult, you know, their fight or flight really kicks in, and then they totally black out, don't use any technique, just go totally wild.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's just an interesting point that I know. I mean, would you recommend that someone should take a fight at a younger age rather than wait until they're an
Oh,
adult?
for sure. Like I'm completely for like fighting at a young age because from both perspectives, you know, from what we were just talking about, number one, but number two also because of any sport, you know, if you wanna like even dream of becoming an elite athlete, you need to start at the age of 6, 7. You know, like motorcycle races are starting at 6. You know, Formula Ones are starting at 6 on the go karts. Football players are starting at 6. So why shouldn't we start at 6? You know, is the only way that we can get to the elite level, and that's why the ties are who they are. You know, and that's why so many foreigners nowadays, like the generation right after me, that are starting at 6, they're getting so good, you know, and they're getting so good, and they're like, I believe that in 10 years time, like the foreigners will like out like, well, they will beat all the Thais. You know, the Thais won't be able to keep up with the foreigners at this rate, you know, because all the foreigners are starting very early, and the way they learn and the way they fight, it's so much faster, so much like so much more optimized compared to the way Thais train and fight and learn, you know, like a Thai needs like 200 fights to get good, you know, and a foreigner needs like what, 20 fights to get good, you know. So yeah, definitely, like if you want it to be your career, or even if you want to try to make it your career, you need to start early. Like there's no other way. There's no other way. After we can discuss on the fact that it should be with gears, you know, with protections or without, then we can discuss on that. But there's no way, like even me starting at 12 years old, it was already late. You know what I mean? It was already late. And there's no way you can get to the elite level if you start at 18. Like there's really no way. Like maybe you have a chance in like 100 or 1,000, you know, but it's just not how it works. Yeah.
Okay. If someone was to start, like, just say there's an 18-year-old watching this and they're just, is there any bits of advice you could give to them to try and excel?
Oh, look, for sure. Like, well, I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. You know, I mean, many things in life that we find out that we love, we find them out too late. You know what I mean? And that doesn't have to stop you from doing it, from trying it. I'm not saying that at all. You know, I mean, just like try it and give it your best, and see where you can get. You know what I mean? Because there is people, like I've met people that they became successful like at 30, 35 years old on the ring. You know, anything can happen. You know, but I'm just what I was saying before is just about like chances and probabilities. You know, if you start the earlier you start, the more probabilities you will have. But again, if you start at 18-year-old, make sure you're training with the right people, number one. You know what I mean? Because one thing that I see here in Thailand going on a lot, and that's one of the reasons why me and my dad opened our own camp, because Thais, they train everyone the way they train kids. You know what I mean? So basically they let them learn from their own mistakes and just make them like go step by step. You know what I mean? And you can do that with a 6-year-old, with a 10-year-old, with a 15-year-old, but you cannot do that with an 18-year-old, 20-year-old, 25-year-old that wants to get a result. You know what I mean? So this is one of the things we do at the camp. Like we bring anyone to like from like zero, or like not even like maybe just a little bit of experience, to fight at good levels, you know, because even if you're 25 or 29 and you train for 2-3 years the right way, you can fight. I mean, I'm not saying you can become the world champion, but you can fight at a good level, you know. But you need the right training and the right guidance, because if you just like go with the flow, you won't have enough time to get your results.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. All right. So if we just go back to after your first fight, then you said that your shins were all banged up. Your dad carried you out. How were you feeling afterwards? And how long did it take you before you had your next fight?
Oh, well, before my next fight took a while, because after that we went back home. We went back home to Italy, and then that's when we actually started to have the conversation of moving to Thailand. So my next fight was only like a year and a half later, when we actually did make the move to Thailand. So yeah, it was pretty long. But after the fight, I don't remember, but I think a few days and I was okay. You know what I mean? Like ice patching, you know, just like normal type of recovery. And like at that age, you know, you recover so fast. You know what I mean? Like I remember when I used to fight and I was 15, like really I could fight every 2 weeks. You know, after 2 days I was already good from all the pain and all the soreness from the fight. So yeah, the recovery at that age is like, it's very fast. You know what I mean? It's not the likely to get injured is very low, and also the recovery is fast. Yeah.
Okay. And how about mentally? How were you feeling mentally? Were you ready
the first fight?
Yeah. So after you finished, were you ready to get back in there? You said your dad had just carried you out. Your shins are all banged up. Were you feeling like, let me get back in there, or did you?
No,
honestly,
that's the first thing my dad asked me. He was like, "Was it worth it?" Because I have been training for a month, like pretty hard, you know, for a 12-year-old kid. I was running in the morning. I was training in the afternoons, like clinching with the Thai kids and sparring and stuff. Like I was tired, you know. And my dad, the first thing he asked me is like, was it worth it? Was the feeling of winning worth all the how do you say, like all the sacrifice? And the first thing I said no. You know, like I was so in pain, and I was like, fuck that, you know. Like, I mean, I had fun, I had so much fun, but I didn't know if it was worth it. And I found find out later in my career that is one thing that it's very recurrent. Like after every fight, like right after, like maybe the 10-20 minutes after the fight, I have this feeling of like, fuck, why did I do this? Like I had so much fun, but fucking hell, like it's so tiring, it's so like painful, like all the thing I had to go through for like the last month and stuff. But then as that feeling fades away, and then you realize that you have won the fight, you know what you have accomplished, then there it start like there the feeling of wanting to get back in there starts to build up again. So it was kind of the same, you know. I was like, at first I was like, fuck it, I did it, that's it, you know. And then after, when I the next few days, the next few weeks, it was like, oh, I miss that feeling, you know. Like that feeling of winning the fight is really what keeps us doing this, you know. It's the addictive part, you know what I mean. Like you can't get enough of it, you know. It lasts for like a few days and then it fades away, and you won it again, you know. So that's yeah, that's what goes on.
Yeah. So how about now then? If we apply those questions to you as a fighter competing at the top level,
Mm-hmm.
if you get a call from the promoter and they tell you you're matched, how do you feel initially?
You mean nowadays or before?
Yeah, nowadays. Yeah.
Nowadays. When I get a call from the promoter, and they tell me the name of the opponent, the first thing I think of is like, fuck, this guy's strong, you know. Like right away, it's like you feel like you start to feeling the anxiety, you know. Like you feel the first bit of fear, you know. And then maybe someone that you know, that you're like, lately I've been fighting all guys that I've known for a long time, you know. And then when I watched them, I was like, yeah, they're strong, but you know, I could do it, you know, I could take them on. But then when they actually tell you you're going against that guy, you're like, fuck me, you know, like, you know, that guy's dangerous and stuff. But then, you know, again, it fades away, and you start training for him, and you start to make game plans, and you just like, it sinks in, you know what I mean. So
how long does it last before it fades away?
Maybe a day. Yeah, just a day for your mind to sink in that, okay, you're gonna fight, you're gonna, you know. And then yeah, the mind just gets used to it. And like everything in life, really, whatever happens, we'll get used to it sooner or later, you know. And then yeah, you don't get anxious until like, well, I don't get anxious until like maybe a week before the fight. I get like a little bit of anxiety again, maybe when I rewatch the fights of my opponent, you know, to have the final the final game plan and stuff, to make the final game plan. And then again, it fades again away, and then I'm like very, very calm through the weight cut, through everything. And then obviously day of the fight, it starts to, you know, it starts to build up that tension and just stress, anxiety, and adrenaline, you know. It starts to come up, which is healthy, you know. Without it, we couldn't get on the ring.
Yeah. You just mentioned there about watching your opponents fight.
Yeah.
How often do you do that, and would you recommend people do that?
How often or how long? Sorry.
Yeah, how often? Like, so when you're going, it's been agreed you're going to fight someone, and then
Yeah.
how often are you watching their fights?
Honestly, I'm not the kind of person that watches it too much. I let my team, my dad, and my trainers watch him, and like make up a game plan, you know what I mean? And then I follow what they say, you know. But I do like to watch a little bit, because I've had the occasions in the past where I haven't watched anything, and then I got on the ring and I was like surprised by what he was doing, you know.
Right.
And after the fight, I was like, God, I could have prevented that if only I knew he had the habit of doing that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, now I do make myself watch it, even if it's hard. It's very hard to watch your opponent's fight. Like whenever I open the clip of the guy that I'm gonna fight, I get nervous already, you know. But it's something I have to go through, and I do it. And most of the fights, I watch it maybe like once or twice when I get the name, and then maybe once before, like 1 week before the weight cut, and then maybe one time during the weight cut. Like, so not so much. Okay. But then other fights, like I try to watch it more and more, because I tell myself, you know, the more you watch, the more you'll see like his movements, his habits, you know, and then you'll be able to like perform like and react better on the ring. But yeah, I'm not the kind of person like that watches the fight 100 times, you know, and just like sits there. Like I let my dad do that. Like my dad's really good at it. Like he watches all the fights of the opponent and finds out all the little habits that, you know, all the recurrent things that the opponent do, what they're good at, what they're not good at. And I just put complete trust in him and what he says. You know, if he says this guy is dangerous here, this guy is not dangerous here, he can do that, he can't do that, then I put complete trust in him, and I try to follow what he says.
Okay.
You know, because watching it as a competitor, you can't have the same analytic perspective point of view. You know, you're watching it very emotionally. You know, but if it's someone else, like your coach or whatever, your trainer, they can have a very like calm point of view, and they can just analyze it much better without any emotions. You know.
Okay. So when you've watched it yourself, and the things that you're picking up on, like the habits of your opponent, are you able to capitalize on them in the fight?
I have to say not much, because as much as I like to think that it would help, I've never had an occasion where I said I could do that because I watched his fights before. No.
Okay.
So I think it's just a kind of a routine, like a mental thing that I have to do. Like if I don't watch his fights, then I'll feel like I haven't done my job, you know, my homework. But I cannot tell you again one thing that I can, that helped me because I watched the fight. Okay. Not really. Okay. But maybe, you know, because we don't know what goes on in your brain, you know, maybe like the brain already, you know, knows that movement the guy makes, and then on the ring, it can react to it, but we don't know, you know, it's hard to tell.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So you mentioned about how you get a bit of anxiety when you're watching the fight. How about when you're just training for the person? So just say you've got a month to train, how often do you get anxiety?
Well, it really depends on who I'm fighting. So if I'm fighting someone that I believe is very dangerous, or very, very good, then I would get anxiety during training. And I honestly, it's one of the things that I discuss with my mental coach, with my sport psychologist, because I really, really hate that feeling. I really hate to feel nervous in training, because it just makes you so much more stiff, and so much more like, it really makes you underperform in training, you know, because you have this weird anxiety, but you don't know what it's for, you know, because when you're going to fight, you know, the adrenaline is there for a reason, but when you're training, it gets in the way, you know. So I try to, like, you know, whenever I get anxiety in training, I just try to let it go, you know, just like calm down and say, look, you're just training, you're not fighting him yet, you know, just let go. But yeah, it does happen. Like if I fight someone that I'm very confident about, like I know I can beat him, then not really. But when I'm fighting someone dangerous and that I'm not so confident, then yeah, I get very, very anxious in trainings, like especially when maybe I need to try some technique or some game plan and it doesn't work out, like I can't do it. And I'm like, fuck, you see, I'm going to lose, you know, I can't do it. He's going to get me there. He's going to do this to me like this, you know? So, yeah.
Okay. So how about that? And when you've been matched against someone who you feel quite confident about, how does that affect your mindset and your performance in training?
Yeah, the mindset and in training and performance it affects it very, very positively, because I can train very relaxed, and I can perform, like I can do many things like the way I want. Like I'm relaxed, you know, my body's relaxed, my mind is relaxed, so I can have fun in the training and stuff, you know, so it's very good. But when it comes to the fight, sometimes it's not so good. Like I perform and much better, and like I've won fights where I was very afraid of the guy. I was scared of the guy, of what he could bring to the table, and I've lost fights that I was very confident. So in the training, in the fight camp, if you're confident, you live a much better life. But then when it comes to the performance in the ring, confident or not, it doesn't really make a difference, you know. Doesn't really make a difference. It does, but to a point, to an extent, because when you're confident, you often underestimate, you know. So it's very hard to like be confident but not underestimate. But as in, for when you're scared as fuck, you will never underestimate. So, you know, so you're sure you perform at your best. Yeah.
Yes. Well, that was going to be my next question. How do you find that balance? And if you are really confident about fighting someone, how do you find the motivation to train hard and that confidence in the ring, but still have the respect for them, so you take it seriously and go on to win?
Yeah. It's not easy. It comes with experience, you know, and I can do it sometimes, but not all the time. Like, it's just like, training is about discipline. So if you even if you're confident and but you're disciplined, you know what you want to achieve, then you know that you have to keep training. But again, if you're confident, you will not make that extra little step that you go, you know, you won't make that extra little effort that sometimes it's needed, you know. And you need someone that pushes you, obviously, that says, hey, what the fuck are you doing, you know, like you're slacking off or something. Or you need to be very, very disciplined. But having someone that pushes you is always the best part, the best way, because no matter how disciplined we think we are, we always, like, you know, we can always, like, let ourselves slack sometimes without even realizing, you know.
Okay.
But yeah, finding the balance is more like you have to get to know yourself and how your mind and your body works. And yeah, it's an ongoing process. Even me, I still can't get it 100%, because some fights I'm too confident and I train very good, but then in my mind I'm like, it's fine, I'm gonna get it done anyway, you know. And then some other fights, like I said, I'm like, no matter how hard I train, I always feel like I should do more, because I need to do more. This guy's too strong, like this. So yeah, it's a pretty tricky thing. It's something I'm currently working on as well with my mental coach. Yeah.
Okay. So just on that note of what you said there about when you are worried about fighting someone who's at an elite level and you never think you've done enough. So how do you know when you've done enough?
I don't know. You really don't. Like, you have to tell yourself that you've done enough. I mean, you have to do everything that your training, like that your coaches want you to do. And then you need to do maybe something that you want yourself to do, because there's always little things that you think will help you, which is complete bullshit. Like, if you do 10 extra pull-ups, it won't change anything, you know what I mean? But it's those little things that you make yourself believe that they will help, and you do them. But then at one point you have to think, look, I've done everything that other people told me to do. I've done this extra thing. It's enough, you know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, is how you do stuff. It's not how much you do. You know, you can train for 7 hours straight, but if you're not training the right way, it won't help. You know what I mean? So yeah, it all comes with experience. It's really hard to just give like direct advice on something like this, because every one of us is so different. You know?
Yeah. And I mean, you also said about to someone who was going to start late, that make sure you have the right team around you. And I guess that if you have a good team and you trust that team, then you listen to your coach, right? And your coach can maybe calm you down and tell you that you've done enough. And yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So if we just stay on this topic of confidence, I want to talk about belief. Like, how important is belief to performance?
Belief as in what? Believing
that you can win.
Believing yourself.
Yeah, believing in yourself. Yeah. So as an example, if has there been a time where maybe you haven't believed that you can beat the guy, but you have gone on to win?
Yeah, all the time. all the time that I face the like top guys or very dangerous ones, or people that I've been looking up for a long time.
Yeah.
And like, when if I have to fight that guy, I would be afraid of that, or it would be, you know. And many time, like almost like maybe 80-90% of the time that I've fought those guys, I've won, and I've lost against others that I didn't feel that way about them. So yeah, that's why I said before, like, being confident or not, it doesn't really affect the final performance. Like, for me, you know what I mean? Sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes being confident, it affects it in a negative way. So yeah, like, it's very like, it's one of the things that makes me love like this sport and fighting so much, because you know, when you think you cannot do something, but you make yourself do it anyway, and then you succeed, it's a feeling that is really, it's unmatchable in life, you know. Like, I don't know how to say, like, it's just like you after the fight, I rewatch it and I can't believe that's me doing those things, you know what I mean? And yeah, it's just something that makes me very, very proud, you know, to being able to have beat those guys that I was terrified from, you know what I mean? Or I've watched them when I was growing up or whatever, you know, like,
yeah. But so when you do fight them, like you said, you're terrified, you've idolized them for many years.
Yeah.
In terms of belief, do you 100% believe that you can't win, or is it more that I'm scared? You know, these guys, I've looked up to them for such a long time, but I do believe I can. Like, there's part of you that does believe that you can win, or are
No,
you
no,
100% out? Like, I don't think I can do it.
no, no, no. I'm not 100% on the losing side, obviously. Otherwise, I would never be able to do it. I'm just like very doubtful, you know, there are a lot of doubts. Like,
Right.
I know I can, I believe there's a chance that I can do it, but then, you know, it comes back to me as in like, oh, but there's so much more chance for him and stuff like this, you know. So it's more like about doubting myself
Right.
rather than thinking that I have zero chance, you know. Like if I would think that I have zero chance, I probably wouldn't take the fight, you know what I mean? Because it wouldn't be healthy as well, you know. Yeah, there's always like it's on and off, you know. There's times where like during the fight camp, there's days where I feel super nice, super good, super confident, and like, oh, I'm gonna get it done. And then the next day or 3 days later, like I feel like super shit, and I feel like I have zero chance, you know. So it's really like a roller coaster. It comes also with like emotions of whatever happens around me or whatever, you know. So how the training session goes, you know. If the training session is going well, then I feel good after it. Then if it's going bad, then after I feel like I have no chance. But yeah, it's more like 50-50, you know. It's not like, oh, I can't win. No, not
Right.
like that.
Okay. What you just mentioned there about the training sessions that are bad, and that's when doubt can creep in. Do you have like any tactics for dealing with this situation?
During the training, like I said before, like my mental coach tells me, like, just breathe and let the feeling pass, you know, and let it go, because if we hold on to it, it will stay, you know. But if we just like tell ourselves we're just training now, we're not gonna fight now, you know, the guy's not in front of me at the moment, and that's it. It just goes away. After the training, if you had a bad training session, uh, the best thing is to just like try to like how do you say it in English? Like try to relax, try to get your mind off it, you know, like maybe go out, go and eat out, like go and have a coffee with your friends, or just like whatever, you know, just like try to like do something else that takes your mind off it, and then the next day go back in the gym and make up for it, you know what I mean? Like it's the only way. You can't sit on it and just like think about it too much, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So on that note, I know you're married.
I have 2 kids, but I'm not married.
Okay, so
But I have, me and my partner live together and everything, but we're not married.
right. Okay, so
Now.
long-term partner, and you've got 2 kids.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've got the gym.
Yeah.
Right? So you've got a lot of responsibilities outside of training.
Yeah.
Does the thought of the fight ever affect your time with your family and helping with the business?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like I'm lucky that I have a you know, my family and my team around me, because otherwise it would be impossible. You know what I mean? Like when I'm training for a fight, I can't be a dad. I can't be anything. You know, I can't. You know, I do stuff. Depends how far how far away is the fight. Like if I'm doing like a 2-3 months training camp, which is not likely here in Thailand, I have more time. But like the last few fights, I've been doing like 3 weeks training camps. You know, because it was one fight after the other, and really like I had to let everything like kind of like go. You know what I mean? Like I do my best to try and like keep up with it, but then you know I stay with the kids much less, and I help out with the gym much less. But you know I have obviously my partner and my mom that helps with the family, and my dad and all the team at the gym. So I'm lucky, you know, because I have a lot of support. I have a lot of help. You know what I mean? So,
Okay.
but like when you're training for a fight, you need to put everything else aside. You know what I mean? Like it's not healthy to have too much things going on. You know, a little bit is okay to get your
Yeah.
mind, we said before, but then your main focus needs to be on the training, on the fight. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So even if we put aside like responsibilities,
Yeah.
obviously you do have 2 kids and a partner who you're going to spend time with. When you are spending time with them, are you mentally there spending time with them, or do you spend time thinking about the fight?
Um, No, not really. Not. I don't think much about the fight during the fight camp because I've just done it so many times, you know. So for me, it's just normal. So yeah, when I'm with them, I can enjoy. Like I can most of the time, obviously. Like sometimes, then, like we said before, maybe I had a bad training session or like something is going on, and then I would be a bit off, you know. But in general, I can handle it pretty good. But obviously, like there's bad days where you're like you can't like concentrate on anything, like, and maybe I get angry at my kids for stupid stuff just because I'm angry for other things, or I'm nervous, or I'm, you know what I mean? So yeah, it's tricky a bit, but just need to, yeah, like I said before, with experience, you learn to manage, you know, different feelings and stuff. But yeah, it sometimes it does help. It does affect the relationship because, like I said, it's hard to, when you have very strong emotion inside, it's hard to bring that, not necessarily thinking about the fight, but an emotion that you have from before, from what you were doing before, from the training or whatever, and then you bring it into the family, to bring it in the house, and sometimes it can be a bit like contaminating the environment, you know what I mean? But I try my best to avoid that, but you know, we're all humans, so it happens at times.
Yeah, yeah. Is there any advice you'd give to someone in the same situation and how you could recommend that they don't do that?
Well, it's just like I said, like try to think it as like work and life, you know what I mean? So do your best while you're at work, and then when you get out, just do not like keep thinking about it, and like, how do you say, like rethinking about it many times, it won't help change what it is, you know what I mean? So it also about who you have in front. Like if your partner, like it's helpful and understanding, and maybe like they can give you a few words of like, not advice, but just like a few words of comfort, then it would help, you know what I mean? And then do some activity that takes your mind off, you know? So maybe with my kids, if I'm just sitting there, and then all the other thoughts would come in. But if I'm playing with them, or maybe watching a movie with them, or doing something active, then the other thoughts will go away, and then yeah, after I will forget about it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what I've experienced that it's good is like, it's better to not be there if you don't have to be there. Like, I don't know how to say it. I try to be there fully or not be there at all. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Yeah.
I wouldn't be with my kids and stay on my phone, which is something I used to do back then. Like my first kid is 5 years old. So I've had like 5 years of experience as a dad. Like the first few years I was a bit like, didn't know what I was doing, but maybe I was like sitting with her, but being on my phone, and like not fully concentrating on her, which is, it's very bad. Like it's bad for the kid, it's bad for us. It makes you feel guilty afterwards. So for me, like nowadays, if I'm training, or if I have to do some work on the phone, or I have to post on my social media, I'll just go out, like go in another room, or just like go in the whatever, in the office, do whatever. And then when I'm done, put my phone away, and then like change clothes, shower, and then go stay with them, you know, and try to not mix the two things. That's the best way it's been working for me. And even if it's maybe less time together, like physically, it's much better. Like, you know, it's much more quality time. And I
Yeah.
see everybody else happier as well, because if I'm at home on my phone, and my partner is like, oh, what are you doing like this, I'm like, I'm working. Okay, but you know, like it creates conflict and friction as well, and it's not nice, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. If we can talk about goal setting,
Yeah.
do you set goals?
I used to.
Okay.
But I mean, sports wise, yeah, like
Yeah.
fighting wise, yeah.
Yeah.
I used to set, well, yeah, I used to set goals, but then I stopped because in Thailand, like this sport is so random, like
Yeah.
really, really random. Like you could be losing 2, 3 fights and then fighting for a belt afterwards, you know what I mean? Or you could be winning 15 fights and never fighting for a title. So um, I stopped just giving myself goals. Like obviously I have like main goals, you know, like winning a championship or whatever, but I've tried to like make it more as a like an improving myself like process, and just improving little things every time, every fight, and that's it. Because it's not like other sports. Like for example, the UFC, you know that you're ranked number 10, you know that you have to do like fight 3-4 times or whatever to get to the title shot, and then you get the title shot. Like, you have a path. In Muay Thai, it's very random. Like, you know what I mean? Like, top guys are not getting fights for the titles, but other people that are, maybe have good management and they are from big gyms, they're getting title fights. And just really hard to look forward to something that's so volatile, you know. It's so like everywhere, it's all over the place, you know. It's fugazi, how you would say in the Wolf of Wall Street, you know. So it's like I stopped giving myself goals because it's just it's like it doesn't help, you know. It just gives you more like stress, you know. But obviously I have goals like within myself, and like you know, I know that the day I get the opportunity I want, I will try to make the best of it and maybe fail like I did the last fight, you know. But yeah, that's it. For example, the last few fights I've been fighting for the RWS tournament, which was like a clear tournament. Like, you knew that you had to get through these many fights to get to the final, blah blah blah, to get to the championship, which was really good. Like, it gave me so much drive, so much motivation, and yeah, it made me feel like young again in a way, you know. Like, I'm gonna be 30 years old soon. It made me feel like I felt like when I was a kid. But other than that, when I was fighting in the normal promotions, like, I didn't really have a main goal. Like, you know what? Yeah, I think you get it. You get what I mean.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. How about in terms of training and like internally in the gym, rather than looking externally in terms of the career? Are like smaller goals in the gym as part of training?
Yeah, for sure. Like, always like trying to improve myself, like my body, because like, you know, I'm like, as an athlete, I'm not very good. Like, I'm not very, how do you say in English? Elastic. How do you say, like, when you're good at stretching? Like, I'm flexible. Yeah, I'm not very flexible. Like, you know, I'm not like I can't do a backflip, like, for, you know, I'm not those kind of athletes, you know what I mean? So yeah, I always try to improve myself as an athlete as well. And obviously try to improve my what I do wrong in fighting, you know. Like, we always have something to improve. So in the gym, it's pretty easy to have goals because you know what you're lacking of, you know what you need to improve, and you just try to work on it as much as possible, you know. So yeah, that's pretty easy, like, because as long as you can be like honest with yourself and tell yourself that you're not perfect, obviously you're not the best, you need to improve, then
yeah. So do you have a process for goal setting and reviewing?
I used to, as I said, but I, like, my dad teach me, like, when I was young, like, how to do goal setting, like review it like every 6 months and write it down and stuff. And I used to do it from when, like, I was maybe 16, 17 to when I was like 20 something. And then, like, you know, I became a father and it wasn't planned. And like, I realized that goal setting is very good, it helps, but then anyway, nothing goes really how you plan it in life, and it's not necessarily bad. I mean, most of the time it works out good. So I do have my goals, like my main goals for the long term, like medium to long term. But before, I used to make like short term goals or whatever, but I stopped because I don't know if it's good or bad, I'll see. But I think when I'll stop fighting and I'll get into the business world, then yes, I will have to start doing my goal setting once again. But since I was focusing a lot on fighting, and I realized that in this sport, having like specific goals is stupid, because, you know, you don't know what you have to go through to get to what you want, to get to the belt or whatever. So I just like said, you know, just live it fight by fight, try to improve as much as possible, and whenever the opportunity comes, it comes, you know. But I don't know if it was a good mindset. I will see. You know.
Okay. So if we can talk about grit and heart, and if you can tell us about like your hardest fight that you went on to win.
My hardest fight that I went on to win. Well, I always tend to remember latest fights more clearly. So whenever I get asked questions like this, it's always like, I always tell you the latest one. So I could tell you the one against Fluke Noy in the tournament. It was like 3 fights ago, I think 3-4 fights ago, and yeah, it was pretty hard because he hit me a lot. Like I got like probably 2 head kicks.
โชว์ความมั่นใจไปมีแต่การเข้าไปครับ
คอเลยครับจะเด็ดหัวเลยครับทางด้านของฟุกน้อยแต่ดูมาเทียสครับ
2 front kicks to the face.
ไปครับทางด้านของมาเทียสฟุกน้อยนี่ของเราตอบโจทย์แบบ1,000,000%ครับโชค
Elbows.
เอาครับขยับเข้าไปครับต่อยหมัดครับโอ้ยโชว์ครับโอ้
Everything, he hit me with everything, and yeah, in the end I ended up winning, and I ended up like breaking his mindset because he really threw everything he had, and I still stand.
คิดว่ากรรมการเนี่ยจะชอบฟังไหนครับแฟนๆก็สามารถดูไปด้วยแล้วให้คะแนนไปพร้อมกันครับโอ้โหหมัดขวาลูกนี้ครับ
เหวี่ยงได้น่ากลัวครับในช่วงปลายยกนี้ทางด้านของมาเทียสครับดูครับเดินไม่เร็วก็จริง
Like I got it. I didn't even feel like drunk. You know how you say, like, I didn't feel dizzy or anything. In Thai we say drunk when you get hit. It's just the same. And yeah, I think I could have said that one, but I've had so many before, like other fights that I've like we said before, there was one fight in particular. It was the fight after my daughter was born. My first daughter was born, and I was so confident about this fight. Like I knew, like I could beat this guy easily, and I thought I was gonna beat him in the second round with low kicks, with leg kicks by KO, and then it ended up to be like a crazy battle, like elbows, everything, like crazy battle, and then we got like the fight of the year, fight of the month at Lumpini, like a lot of prizes, and yeah, there was another one that was very very hard. But again, the one I said before, the one against Fluknoy was more, in my eyes, harder because it was a fight that I wasn't so confident about winning, because I knew he was so good and he was on like a 10-fight win streak. As in, I was in a 3-fight losing streak, and yeah, I still got the job done. So yeah, probably the hardest one.
So I mean, you said that he hit you with all of these with 2 head kicks, 2 teeps to the face. Did you ever have any doubt creep in? Maybe like a voice said to you, I don't think I can win because he's hitting me with everything.
No, it's actually the opposite. The more he was hitting me and I wasn't feeling it, the more I was confident, and the less he was,
Okay.
So I was very doubtful before the fight, but then as it gone on, I got hit with everything, and I was like, okay, that's all he has to bring, and that's it. Like I saw his confidence fading away, and I saw mine grow. Yeah.
Okay. If you were fighting and doubt did start to creep in, is there any way you can exit it from the mind?
During the fight, it's very hard. Like for example, the fight, not my latest fight, but the one before against Buakiao.
Yeah.
Again, I was very very confident about this fight. Like I've never been so confident about a fight. And 20 seconds into the fight, he kicks me with his toe in my eye. And I completely lose my vision. I get cut on the eye. I lose my vision. I can't see shit. And then there I'm like, fuck, and then he starts hitting me, and I feel his power. Like he has more power than I was expecting it. And there I was like, oh my God, like I probably underestimated this guy. I fucked up. But I bite down on my mouthpiece, and I was like, let's do this, like, now what is done is done. Now I have to make the best out of it.
อาวุธได้ถนัดตลอดมาเทียสไม่ยอมมาส่งโอ้โดนแล้วมีอาการเหมือนกันครับเอาครับเดินต่อครับยังยิ้มได้เหมือนกันครับตัวเขียว
But during the fight, it's not easy to control our emotions. It's everything is very instinctive. So it's very hard to, throw away an emotion or like pump yourself up if you're not pumped or yeah.
Okay. So you mentioned there about he was on a 10-fight winning streak and you were on a 3-fight losing streak. If we can talk about winning streaks and losing streaks and how that affects your mentality and your confidence going into the next fight. So for example, we'll talk about winning streaks first. How does a winning streak affect your confidence and performance in training and in the next fight?
Well, it affects your confidence very well, like in a positive way, obviously, but it can be it can affect your training negatively, because like we said before, the more confident you get, the more lazy you get sometimes, you know. Not everyone, but most people, you know what I mean? No matter how disciplined you are, you always like start to like think that you're too good or whatever, you know what I mean? And yeah, it affects the performance as well, for sure, because also it affects how other people see you, you know what I mean? If you're on a 10 fights win streak, the other people are going to be like, the opponents are going to be so much more like afraid of you. Is like, if nobody can beat you in the last 10 fights, like, why can I beat this guy, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
But yeah, like everything, like it's how you deal with it, you know. If you're winning all the fights and you start to slack off, then it can be bad. But if you're winning all the fights and you use it as like, you know, like confident in yourself, then it can be good. Yeah.
Okay. And if you're on a losing streak?
Yeah, losing streak, obviously it's not nice. Like, you are, if it's few fights, okay, you makes you train a bit harder. But if it's more than that, then you're like, you know, like something's not going right, you know, like maybe I'm doing something wrong, maybe I have to change some. You start to doubt yourself for what you're doing as well. After, it really depends, like it really depends on what kind of loss it is, you know. It really depends on that. Like, there's many ways of losing, you know. Like, you can lose because the opponent was too good, you know. You can lose because you didn't do everything you wanted to do, you didn't perform at your best. Or you can lose because the judges gave you a loss, but it wasn't a loss, you know. So there's many ways, you know. If you lose, you did your best and you lost, it's fine, you know, you can live with it. But then if you lose because of outside factors, which was what happened to me a lot, then it can really make you like feel burnt out. Like, no matter how good you train, how good you fight, they're still gonna make me lose because of this, because of the gambling, because of blah, you know, with all the bullshit around.
Yeah.
But I always try to put the losses on myself, you know. Even if like everyone around me says you won that fight, you know, it's bullshit, like just because of that person was gambling, blah blah blah. I just try to put it on myself, because it's the only way that the loss can help me, you know. If you put the loss on yourself without looking elsewhere, you just put it on yourself, you're gonna improve, you know. You're gonna train harder, you're gonna like do everything better in order to not make it happen again.
Okay.
And yeah, again, there's very different types of loss, but in my opinion, like, every time we lose, we have to take big advantage of it. We can't just like try to blame it on other people or on other factors to make ourselves feel better in the moment, which is something very natural. Like, we all tend to do that in order to take the blame away from ourselves. But then we have to like just stop and say, look, that happened, that other factor was there, this was here, but we have to look inside, look at ourselves, and like, what could I have done better? This, okay, I need to work on it. Fuck everything else, you know. We can't change whatever happened outside, but we can change what we did wrong, you know. So, you know, it's crazy because sometimes, like I said, the fight against Fluknoy that I won, I lost the first round, I won the second round, and I won the third round. So I won the fight. And I was so scared of the guy and everything. Like we said, the latest fight that I've done, it was the same. I was scared of the guy because he was dangerous. He had fought Rotang. He had beaten Rotang. He had beaten so many other guys, you know. And then I was like, okay, my chances are not so high, but I always think like that. So I'm like, okay, let's do it anyway. And the first round I lose, and then second round I win, and third round I win. But this time the judges decided they made some very strange scorecards. Anyway, let's not get into that. But I lost the fight on points, you know. And the two fights are very, very similar, you know, in many, many ways. Like the way I felt about my opponent, the way the fight went, like I lost the first and then picked up in the second and the third. But the first fight, they gave me a win, and I was so happy and everything, but it brought me less to look at myself, what I could have done wrong. But then this fight that I lost, which could have easily been a win for me, it made me look into myself so much more than if I would have won, you know what I mean? Obviously, I would have preferred to win because I would have gone to the finals, but the same fight, it can vary, the outcome can vary, you know, with the judges, with things like this, you know, with the gambling. So yeah, it's very like, I'm also thinking about this, and during these days I'm thinking about this a lot, because it's crazy. Like, what an outcome, what a single person opinion, it can change your whole mindset. You know what I mean? Because the same fight can be judged one way or another way, and it can make you feel very good. It can be the best fight of your career, the best moment of your life, or it can be the worst. You know what I mean? Just because of that single person saying you won or you lost. You know.
Yeah.
So I always like trying to not take wins or losses too seriously. You know, I just try to look the performance like, I win, okay, but did I do good? Did I do bad? Or I lost? Did I do good? Did I bad? I always try to do that. But obviously, we're all human. You know, when we win, we feel a certain way. When we lose, we feel a certain way. But yeah, we just have to try like go deeper into everything that happens and analyze it the best way. You know, it's the best way that we can improve ourselves in any aspect. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I don't have many more questions left, Mathias, but I've got actually just one more.
Yeah.
Bad blood fights. You said about we're all human,
Yeah.
and obviously people can react to certain people if they've annoyed them.
Yeah.
Have you ever been involved in any bad blood fights?
Honestly, not really, because in Thailand it's not really a thing. You know, like there's so much respect between everyone. There's only one time, like the same fight I was mentioning before, when my first daughter was born.
Okay.
And I was with my partner in the hospital and stuff. I wasn't really training. I only had like a week and a half of training for that fight. And when we got to the weigh-ins, like they had the weight on the board. Like in Thailand, you would have a board with the names and the weights and everything. And there was the weight, which was 140 pounds. And it was like, they took a pen and they like make a line on top of it, and they wrote like 142 or something. So they basically changed the weight in the morning of the weight, you know.
Right.
And I was cutting weight and stuff, going down to 140 and stuff with very little training, you know. And like my daughter was just born, like, you know, I made the effort, I made weight, and I get there and the guy's like, oh, they changed the weight. And I was like, what the fuck, you know what I mean? Like, what about telling me before so I don't cut weight like an idiot? And the coach of my opponent comes to me and says in Thai, if you want, we fight at this weight. If not, we don't fight, we go home. You know, the coach, not the fighter himself.
Yeah.
Fuck. I looked at him and I was so fucking angry, and I was like, okay, we'll see tonight who the fuck goes home, you know? And I made, like, he made the weight of they wanted me to like drink or eat in order to go up in weight and make the same weight as him. And I was like, fuck you, you know, I'm making weight where I'm supposed to be, and you make your shitty higher weight. And yeah, and that night I was like, I didn't have any bad blood against him personally, but I was very like angry about this, you know. So like yeah, it turned up to be a very like heated fight. Right. But I wouldn't call it a bad blood. Like, it's not something that really happens here in Thailand. Like, it's not common, you know. There's so much respect between everyone. We all know each other, you know. Like, we would be talking before the fights, after the fights, like with our opponents, you know. It's just really, yeah.